All right, let's continue with this discussion. One of the entrepreneurs that's likely to also be affected by these changes in trade with the U.S. is winemaker Berene Sauls. She's also become a respected figure in South African winemaking. As we celebrate Women's Month, we've decided to welcome her to speak to us about her journey and, I suppose, reflect on these interesting geopolitical times. Berene, it's lovely to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making time for us here on the SABC News channel. And it only feels right to say, I suppose, Happy Women's Day in advance. And there's so much to canvas when we think about especially women in your role. You're in this male-dominated industry which is facing such unique headwinds because of what's taking place in the United States. Let me just begin by just gauging where your head is at, given all these different moving parts.
Thank you very much. And yes, Women's Month is a very good way to celebrate women in South Africa. But yes, coming on to the US tariffs, from my side, Tesla Style Wines, it's a boutique winery, so small production, but my biggest market is the USA. And these tariffs has a very great ripple effect on not only production, but also on what your cash flow forecast would have been and how your exports would have aligned, because my business is very much a 70% export business, 30% national sales. The Tesla Style is exported into 13 different countries in small pockets, but the US has got the biggest allocation.
And I suppose, of course, you're also watching with bated breath to see what's likely to happen next. Has there been enough clarity from your end about what to do if you find, in fact, that these changes do have, let's call it, an adverse effects on production?
Yes, well, we also have been proactively in discussion with our US importer, and we have to take the cut. We have to take the cut. They take a cut, we take a cut. It is discussions in progress, but I will say it did have a great effect on the ordering and planning, of the business.
In other words, people or your customers overseas were able to order in advance?
The ordering is where it was a steady flow. It's currently not a steady flow due to obviously the tariffs and obviously what we had to put in place to kind of accommodate that. And to look at stock levels and also how people is spending and how people is ordering. So it's not just, it's not just us that is affected. It is also the importers in the US that is affected. And a lot of footwork has been done in the US, from our side, from South African producers' side. And the importers we have is very, very good importers and flying the flag high for South African wines. But even with these tariffs, it made it very, very difficult, for them to uphold this footprint and to continue making business out of South African wines like it has been before the tariffs came into place. So yes, we had to take a cut. I think everyone is taking a cut at this moment, and it is putting strain on your planning, your ordering, how much you should produce, should you produce, should it be less? There is avenues of looking at other markets, but ultimately the US is the biggest market.
Yeah, so much talk so far about alternative markets, and unless you do this kind of work, it's easy to just throw terms like that around. How simple is it for you to just, pick up customers elsewhere because of the US's decision?
No, I mean, if anyone in sales would say, no, it's not such a quick, easy task to do. You have to do the work. You have to attend shows. You have to go international. You have to do the traveling. You have to get on that plane. Every step that you do there is cost, and it's cost that wasn't budgeted for.
Fair enough. And speaking about, I suppose, some of those costs, it's a good time, I suppose, to segue into how you got into winemaking, this male-dominated industry, which is seasonal in many instances, and I suppose that comes with its own challenges. yeah, how did you segue into doing what you do?
I've been in the wine industry for 25 years. I am originally from Teselarsdal, which is a small farming village in the Overberg. I'm sitting here on Hamilton Russell Vineyards, which is the oldest wine farm in the Hemel en Aarde Valley, Hermanus, Western Cape, South Africa. And the history around Teselarsdal, the town, is where Johannes Tesla, he was a captain in the Dutch army in the 1700s. When he died in 1810, he left his property to his then freed slaves, which was basically a mix of Khoisan and Dutch. I'm a descendant of those slaves. My parents still live there. And it's also a place where at the end of 2019, I cleared the business bank account, bought a 16.68 hectare property cash to plant vineyards. So we planted the very first Pinot Noir vineyards in Teselarsdal. And behind the scenes, I'm also busy registering Teselarsdal geographically as a wine of origin. So I'm busy registering that area as a wine of origin, which is history in the making and the first for everything, and it will be our little contribution to the wine industry. But I started on Hamilton Russell Vineyards, which is also a Pinot Noir and Chardonnay wine farm, 25 years ago as the nanny to Anthony Hamilton Russell's children here on Hamilton Russell Vineyards, 18 years old, just finished school. And very soon, Anthony steered me into the wine business side of things. And in 2014, he gave me a no strings attached startup cost to start my own business as a wine producer. Teselarsdal was born in 2015, only with Pinot Noir. 5 vintages into the Pinot, I added Chardonnay to production, and the wines was an instant success. Beautiful quality grapes here from the Hemel en Aarde Ridge. So I purchased grapes from the Hemel en Aarde Ridge, but I also grow my own grapes on my own property in the Overberg. And that grapes will come into wine production in 2031.
Wow, what a rich history. And I know typically people who make wine say there's a philosophy to it. What's your kind of signature approach to this process?
Well, the wine is made in collaboration with winemaker Emil Ross, but I would say my philosophy is just a true reflection of sight. So where my grapes currently come from, in the Hemel en Aarde Ridge, it is a beautiful reflection of the cool climate. You've got this low pH, high acidity grapes that just makes a beautiful age-worthy wine. And when I produce from my area in Teselarsdal, we've done test runs or test harvests from the grapes from there. That wine will have its own identity, reflecting Teselarsdal as an area greatly with its high iron-rich and clay soils. So it's very exciting things. So it's just a true reflection of sight.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a deep sense of fulfillment in your case because, like I said, there's such a rich history to how you got there, including the involvement of your own family. Speak to us about what you find to be most rewarding about what you do. And I wonder, as you do that, whether you can also share with us how you reckon more women can be pulled into this kind of work, which, let's face it, is still largely male-dominated.
Yes, well, I must say, so when I started, I got the startup cost, started my business, did the first selling in 2016. In 2017, I applied for different competitions that the Department of Agriculture provincially and nationally had for women entrepreneurs. And I won about 6 or 7 of those. I won, best commercial, best export, best... oh my goodness. I think I got the Ministerial Youth Award. With those monies, as well as some of the CUSP funding that the Department of Agriculture provincially and nationally give out or fund you with, those things also helped me to purchase, my farm cash in the end. Also, I still actually work full-time for another company. I work for Hamilton Russell Vineyards as well, doing the import, export, transport, and packaging logistics. But my dad, he's an ex-paramedic turned viticulturist. He does all the hard work on the farm of maintaining the vineyards and organizing, the labor. Teselarsdal, the town, is a poverty-stricken area. So we are very, it gives us great energy to move forward to provide jobs in that regard in my hometown of Teselarsdal.
Gosh, what a rich and far-reaching history once again. Really do appreciate your time and your insights. Thanks for speaking to us and all the very best in these interesting times, let's call them. Berene Sauls, a winemaker, speaking to us both in a capacity as somebody in this industry facing headwinds from the US tariffs, but also as a woman in this male-dominated industry. Once again, Berene, thanks very much indeed for your time. But